Well, guys, we have made it to the month of December, the final month of 2021. It's been I'd say an up and down year for the Packers because it was 2021, the beginning of this year, that we did lose the NFC Championship. That feels like 10 years ago, to be completely honest, that we lost that game. That was a sad one. That was definitely a sad one for sure. But I'm feeling like 2021, it's going to have a nice end to it, and hopefully 2022 gets started off nicely with the Packers coming in and winning a Super Bowl. I think it's very possible. But today, what I want to do is sort of talk about some stats I came across for Aaron Rodgers. I was looking through Reddit, which honestly I don't do very much. Maybe some of you guys spend a lot of time on Reddit. But I was going through this, like the Green Bay Packers Reddit, which I've done a couple times in the past. But I came across some pretty crazy stats for Aaron Rodgers. And I sort of want to go through some of these stats just to show how good our quarterback is and sort of to rub it into every other franchise's face who doesn't have a good quarterback. Obviously, joking there. But I also came across, as I was doing this, I had some thoughts about sort of comparing him to Tom Brady because, of course, people love to compare Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And people like to say, Tom Brady is the GOAT, which generally I'd agree with because when you have as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady has, compared to Aaron Rodgers, who only has one Super Bowl, I understand how you could come to that conclusion. But as I was looking at these stats, I came across other stats for Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers that I would like to share with you guys. So first off here, we have at the top of this thread by Jack Noops or something like that. It says Aaron Rodgers has thrown for 122 touchdowns versus 15 picks the last 4 seasons. Pretty wild. And someone comes in here and adds Simon8R, great username, says it gets even better. There are 8 players in NFL history who have thrown for 400 plus touchdowns in their career. Rodgers is the only one to do so with less than 100 interceptions. There are 13 players in NFL history who have thrown for 300 plus touchdowns in their career. Rodgers is also the only one to do so with less than 100 interceptions. No one else in history has made it to 300, and this man has an outside chance at hitting 500. So I think one thing, about Aaron Rodgers' greatness is his ability to not turn the ball over. And we've seen it so far this year, especially, when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers playing at his caliber, not turning the ball over much, if at all, for Aaron Rodgers. And then you have a defense that is forcing turnovers. It makes this Packers team that dangerous because Aaron Rodgers typically is not going to make, tons of crazy mistakes like guys like, Baker Mayfield, some other guys who make more mistakes than Aaron Rodgers. So clearly that his ability to not throw interceptions is wild. So those are the first stats I found. But now I want to go into the Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers discussion because it's always a discussion, but these stats sort of led me to some conclusions here. So I came across this article because I was looking for stats comparing Rodgers to Brady and basically the defenses they've had because you can look at, Brady's Super Bowls, you can look at his playoff wins, all these kinds of things. And while that does, I think, have partly to do with Tom Brady, clearly the team you have around you is very important. So I was trying to find stats on basically Aaron Rodgers' defenses versus Tom Brady's defenses, and luckily this guy right here, Tim Harmson at zonecoverage.com, did an article on it, so he basically did all the research, so luckily we have that here. So I want to show you guys the stats from the past 10 years for the defenses, okay? So let me scroll down here. So here we have some stats. According to Pro Football Reference, the Packers fielded a defense that finished 19th or worst 5 times in the last decade, 14th or worst 6 times in the last decade, 13th or worst 7 times in the last decade, and then the Packers have fielded a defense 21st or worse 4 times in the last decade. The Packers fielded only one top 10 defense, 9th in 2019, in the last decade. So just looking at the past 10 years, Aaron Rodgers has not had a top 10 defense. He's only had a top 10 defense one time, back in 2019. This may be the year to have another top 10 defense, which is, great news if you're a Packers fan, Aaron Rodgers. But now let's look at Tom Brady's defenses the past 10 years, okay? For perspective, Tom Brady has had a top 10 defense 9 out of the last 10 years, including 6 top 8 defenses and 2 first overall defenses. So in the debate when it comes to Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady, I think clearly Tom Brady has had the better unit around him when it comes to the defense. And clearly, when you have a top 10 defense 9 out of 10 years, you don't have to be as good, to come in there and win a Super Bowl. I'm not taking anything away from Tom Brady. I'm just pointing out some statistics here. Now I basically want to show you Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's stats in the playoffs here. So right now, let me get this right here. So here we have Tom Brady's playoff stats as well as Aaron Rodgers' playoff stats. So clearly Tom Brady is going to have higher numbers in yards, touchdowns, because he's played in 45 playoff games to Aaron Rodgers' 21 playoff games. But taking a look at some of his stats here. As you can see, Tom Brady, 62.7% completion percentage. Aaron Rodgers, 64.6% completion percentage. That goes to Aaron Rodgers. Then here for yards per pass, average 7.1. Aaron Rodgers, 7.6. Yards per game, Brady barely has Rodgers beat here, 276.6 to Rodgers 270. Touchdown percentage, Brady 4.7%. Rodgers beats him there, 6% touchdown percentage. Brady 38 picks, Rodgers 13, but clearly, he's played in way less games. Rodgers, that is. Interception percentage, Brady 2.2%, Rodgers 1.7%. And then if we look at quarterback rating, which shows, efficiency, you guys probably know this stat, 90.4, Aaron Rodgers 100.5. So I think when you look at these stats, clearly Aaron Rodgers has been, I'd say, the better overall quarterback in the playoffs in his entire history in the playoffs. And if we take a look at those stats, just for the past 10 years, clearly the 10 years previously to those 10 years, the 10 years before that, things may change a little bit if you take a look at all those stats. But in the past 10 years, the fact that Brady has had, 9 top 10 defenses in the past 10 years, whereas Rodgers has had a 1. If Rodgers had Brady's defenses in those years, you'd have to assume that Rodgers would at least have a couple more Super Bowls. That's sort of just my take on this situation. And I still, when it comes to the GOAT conversation, I understand why Tom Brady is a GOAT. He has, 6, 7 Super Bowls? I lose track. He's won so many. Whereas Aaron Rodgers has 1. So I understand that. But I think just looking at all these things, if Rodgers had Brady's defenses and Brady had Rodgers' defenses, it may be a little more even. That's just sort of my opinion on the situation. But I'll be curious to hear your opinion on the situation. Do you think Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady? There are clearly so many different things you can look at. But Rodgers does have him beat when it comes to, passer rating, especially in the playoffs. And maybe a few other statistics as well. I was also looking up game-winning drives, and Brady has 51 to Rodgers, I think 27. The statistic I couldn't find, though, which I think is important when looking at that stat, is how many attempts has Rodgers had to come in and win a game versus Brady coming in and winning a game. Because if Brady has, let's say, twice as many attempts, game-winning attempts, it would make sense that he has that many more. So I'd be curious to find that stat. I couldn't find it anywhere because I'm guessing you have to basically go through and figure out what is a potential game-winning drive. And I found one article from 2014. Some guy did it, but Rodgers had only been playing for however many years that was, so it wasn't really up to date up to this point. But I'd be curious to find that stat. If one of you somehow finds that stat, drop it in the comments down below. Or if you want to go and spend the next 20, 30, 40 hours of your life, looking at every single Packers game and where Aaron Rodgers potentially could have won versus Tom Brady, feel free. Let me know your findings. I don't expect anyone to do that, but if you do, let me know your findings. I would definitely be curious to hear about that. But those are the things I wanted to go through. It started off with me just on Reddit looking at Rodgers stats. Then it led me thinking about Brady and Rodgers. So that's what this video is here today. But if you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. We have the Packers facing off against the Bears in a couple weeks. It's going to be I'm guessing a little bit quieter for the Packers just because, they're not practicing at least for a little while, have a little time off with the bye. So we'll see if there's lots of news, if there's, not much news whatsoever. We will see what happens there. Also, don't know if you guys could tell, my setup's a little different. I just moved my camera angle. I think it looks better, honestly. You can see my guitar over there as well. Haven't played it in a while. Maybe I should play it on here sometime. But anyways, I think this video is getting long enough, so I'm going to end it right here. So thank you guys for watching. Drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.